Okay. Good evening, everyone. Am I audible? Am I audible here? Let me know. Okay, done. Let's start. So before going forward, I just want to give a clarification here. Even before the break, there was one question. Sir, in Nitin Singhania, this has been provided, but you are saying something else. I just want to give you a clarity. Please understand this carefully. I've written, let's say, final goods. Final goods are divided into consumption and capital goods. I'll give an example so that you understand what I'm talking about. Let's say somebody said, sir, in Nitin Singhania, they have said capital goods is a part of intermediary good, not this. Argument is very simple here. If this particular good is used by a company, then again, basically it is called as an intermediary good. Right? But if I use it as a consumption good, that it will be considered as a final good. That's a gray area. I'll repeat it again, understand this. If this good is used by a company, then they'll basically classify it under intermediary. If I'm using it for myself, right, for a final consumption, then it will be considered as a final good. Is it clear or not? Let me know. Right? Is it clear? I'll give a very simple example. Let's say sieving machine. If the sieving machine is used by me, it's a capital good. Sieving machine is a capital good. Right? If I'm going to use the sieving machine, it will be simply be considered as a capital good, as a final good. Whereas if the sieving machine is used by a company, generally it is used as an intermediary good. Is the logic okay? That is what is given in the Nitin Singhania. Okay? Done. So next concept, and as far as I'm concerned, last concept in microeconomics, elasticity. Important, understand this. Last concept in the microeconomics, idea of elasticity. What is this elasticity? Let me explain. Elasticity measures the change in the demand with the change in the variable. I mean, if you simply say, sir, it's a technical definition. What does it mean? What does it actually mean actually? Now, answer to this question, if the price of the product changes, will the demand change? Either in the same direction, opposite direction? Don't worry. My question to all of you is very simple. If the price of the product changes, will the demand for the product also change? Which means, if I change one variable, another variable will also change. I'll give you one more example. If the income of the consumer changes, will the demand change? We have discussed all of it. If the income of the person changes, will the demand change? Again, answer is yes, demand also changes. Next, right, let's say price of tea changes. Will the demand for coffee also change? Is it okay? Price of the tea changes, demand for coffee will also change. Of course, the answer is yes. So argument is simple here. We are changing one variable. As a result of this, another component is also changing. Then basically the measurement of the change, if the price is changing by 1%, demand will change by how much percent? If the price of, let's say, tea changes by 2%, demand for coffee will change by how much percent? If the income of the person changes by, let's say, 2%, demand for the good will change by how much percent? This measurement is called as elasticity. Any doubts? Let me know. We are trying to measure if there is a change in one variable, how much is the change in another variable. Right? That measurement is called as elasticity. Any doubt in the definition? Any doubt in the definition? Let me know. Now let me take you back to your high school, or let's say college. When you discuss the concept of elasticity, I'm pretty sure the teacher who was teaching elasticity to you would have brought a rubber band and would have pulled the rubber band like this. And they would simply say, because it can be pulled to a very great extent, great length like this or longer length like this, it is highly elastic. Right? Is it okay? Right? They will simply pull a rubber band apart like this and say this is highly elastic. because it can be stretched to a longer, right, or it can be stretched, right, to a very high distance like this. But on the other hand, if you take an eraser, if you take a rubber or an eraser, try to pull it apart, you will not be able to stretch it very much. Very small stretch you will see, but to not a very great extent. I hope it's clear to you. Concept is simple here. Elasticity means, right, what is the movement? To what extent movement is possible? If the price of one commodity changes, or if let's say price of the product changes, demand will change. But to what extent? Will the demand change by large extent or large percentage, or the demand change very marginally? That is what we are trying to find out. So there are 4 types of elasticities here. First 3 are associated with demand. Price elasticity of a demand, income elasticity of a demand, cross elasticity of a demand. And the 4th one is related to supply, price elasticity of supply. Right, I'll repeat it again. Elasticities will measure under 4 types. First 3 are associated with demand. Last one is associated with supply. Right, income elasticity, price elasticity, and cross elasticity related to demand. And the 4th one, price elasticity of supply, is associated with supply. Right, let's start now. First one, price elasticity of demand. What is this price elasticity of a demand? If there is a percentage variation in the price of the commodity, what is the change in the demand? How much percentage change is observed in the demand? That is called as price elasticity of demand. In fact, the definition is given here. Have a look at it. It measures the change in the demand for a commodity with the change in the price of the commodity. For example, if price for this flask goes up by 1%, how much will be the change in the demand for this flask? That is referred to as price elasticity of demand. Now, why this is important? Let me ask you a very simple question. Imagine the price of the salt goes up by 1%. Imagine the price of the salt goes up by 1%. What do you think should be the change in the demand? Will you see there is a change in the demand, or the demand change will be almost negligible? Let me know. Think of it and answer. I'm taking one example, salt. Price goes up by 1% or 2%. Right? How much do you think will be the change in the demand? Do you think the demand will go up or fall down by 5%, by 2%, by 8%, etc.? Right? The demand change will almost be negligible. Negligible. Why? For a very simple reason. Salt is a kind of a product whose demand remains constant. I hope you understand. Demand generally doesn't change for a salt. Why? Because the price has gone down, you will not purchase more of a salt. If the price has gone up, you will not purchase lesser salt. Right? It almost has a very constant demand in the market. So even if the demand changes, it is almost negligible. Most of the times it will not even change. Like I already told, people don't change the consumption of the salt based on change in the price of the salt. So understand the logic here. There is a commodity which is very much essential. Can I call this as essential? Let me know. There is a commodity which is very much essential for you. So in context of the essentials, the demand doesn't change by much. These are said to be having inelastic demand. These are said to be having inelastic demand. What do you mean by inelastic demand? Price might change, but the demand doesn't change by much. Very small change in the demand. If I were to put it in numbers so that you understand, if there is 1% change in the price, the change in the demand will always be less than 1%. Any difficulty, let me know. Right, I'll repeat it again. in the context of essentials, if the price changes by 1%, the change in the demand will be less than 1%. Hence, these are called to be having inelastic demand. Sir, any example of an inelastic demand? Right? Another example is petrol. Another example is petrol. A simple question to you people. If the price of the petrol goes up by 1%, how many of you will reduce your consumption of the petrol by, let's say, 2%? Think of it and answer. How many of you will reduce your consumption of petrol? Consumption means purchase. Purchase of the petrol by 5%, by 3%, or even by 1%. Right? Anybody who says, sir, I will reduce the purchasing of the petrol. Right? Do you think that is possible? For a very, very simple reason, petrol is essential for conducting economic activities. It may not be essential for you, for preparing food, etc. But for economic activities, for transportation, for movement of the goods, etc., etc., it is essential. People will continue to consume it. Done? Right? So whenever you have a price elasticity of a demand less than 1, these are said to be having inelastic demand. And you will see that it is the essentials which will have, right, the PED less than 1. Any difficulty with respect to first one? Let me know. Any difficulty here? If PED is greater than 1, that is, if the price changes by 1% and the demand changes, let's say, by 4%, demand changes by 10%, these are called as, right, luxurious products which will have elastic demand. Now some of you will simply ask me, sir, why? Why is that? In the context of the luxurious products or luxurious products, you will see elastic demand for a very simple reason, right? I'll give a very simple example here. If price of a perfume goes up by, let's say, 2% or 3% or 4%, don't you think the demand, overall demand, not individual demand, overall demand in the economy will be, there will be a huge decline in the drop, or there will be a huge drop in the demand for the perfume. Understand this, right? Have a look at this. For a perfume, I'm talking about perfume. Perfume is not essential for you. For an essential product such as rice, salt, right, petrol, these are required. Price goes up, you will not be worried much. You will continue to consume it. But for a luxurious product such as perfume, it is a luxury. If the price goes up, many of you will stop purchasing the product. So the drop in the demand will be much, much higher. Right? That is the reason you will see that PD will be greater than 1. It is called as having elastic demand. Elastic demand. Done? Right? So inelastic demand, elastic demand. PD is equal to 1. It is called as a unitary elastic. I have not given any example here, where generally you will not find a stable example for having unitary elastic demand. So this is first one, PD, price elasticity of demand. Let me go to the next one, income elasticity of a demand, IED. Right? What is the definition? IED measures the change in the demand for a particular product with the change in the income of the person, income of the consumer. If the income of the consumer changes, we have discussed earlier, if the income of the consumer changes, don't you think the demand for certain products will change? Sir, what are you talking about? Inferior goods and normal goods. Right? Do you remember? Inferior goods and normal goods. In case of normal goods, income goes up, demand also goes up. Income goes down, demand also goes down. Now, can I simply say there is a positive relation between both? That is income and demand for a good. So far, so good. Let me know. So far, so good. That is, in case of normal goods, the income and demand, both of them are positively related. If income goes up, demand also goes up. If income goes down, demand also goes down. Okay? Right? So this is the relation, positive correlation. Now look at the formula. Income elasticity of a demand, percentage change in the demand for good X divided by percentage change in the income. Now look at this and look at the formula. I will directly tell this, have a look at it, don't get confused. Now can I simply say, if the income elasticity of a demand is positive, I repeat, if the income elasticity of a demand is positive, these are normal goods. Yes or no? Right? Just tell me the answer. I'll repeat it again. If the income elasticity of a demand is positive, these are, right, normal goods. Right? Pallav, no. Why, my dear? Right? What is a normal good? What is a normal good? If the income goes up, demand goes up. If the income goes up, don't you think the change is positive here? It's basic application of your high school mathematics. If the income goes up, change is positive. If the demand goes up, right, basically it is also positive. Now don't worry about numbers, substitute. Change in the demand is positive, change in the income is also positive, outcome will be what? Positive. Right, so basically it is an application of your high school mathematics. So if income elasticity of a demand is positive, right, that is called as a normal good. And sir, but you have written something else. All of this is your high school mathematics. Do you remember number line? 0 is written here. Anything to the right of 0, it is positive. Done? Anything to the right of 0 is positive. Can I write it? Anything greater than 0 is positive. I should not be discussing all of this, but looking at some of your comments, I'm concerned now. Anything to the right of 0 is positive. And can I simply say that anything greater than 0 is positive? And if I say ID is greater than 0, it simply means ID is positive. Any difficulty in understanding this? Any difficulty? Whenever ID is positive, this is nothing but income goods. And can we put it in the other way around? When ID is negative, whenever income elasticity of a demand is negative, these are inferior goods. Right? If you have a doubt, let me know. Otherwise, I'll go to the next one. But please be very careful. These are basic high school mathematic things. Can I go to the next one? Everyone, I'm asking to everyone, can I go to the next one? Nobody wants to answer. Great, I'll go. By default, I'll go then. Right? In basic concept, there is a statement. Maunam sammati lakshanam. Right? If you don't answer to my question, I'll presume that you have agreed to me. Then I'll basically go to the next one. Right? Sir, give me an example. My dear. Right? These are basic examples. These basic concepts. Right? You're basically asking me to teach high school mathematics now. Right? But this is not required anyways. See, your income is, let's say, 100. From 100, it has increased to 110. 10% rise. The demand for good was, let's say, 20 goods. It has increased to, let's say, 22 goods. And I hope you understand, let's say 24 goods rather than 22, 24 goods. Right? So basically, there is a rise in the demand by 20%. Now, don't ask me, sir, why is the demand increasing? This is basic idea of normal goods. In case of normal goods, the demand will increase as the income increases. Now take the 10%, take the 20%, substitute. The demand has increased by 20% divided by the rise in the income of 10%. Cancel, 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 cancel. 0 is cancelled. Plus 2. Is it greater than 0? Is it positive? Right? This is basically a normal good. Right? So normal goods, the idea is ID is positive. Inferior goods, ID is negative. Okay. Cross elasticity of a demand, CED. Cross elasticity of demand, CED. Okay. Now, what is this cross elasticity of demand? Just go back earlier. We have discussed complementary good and substitute goods. Complementary goods and substitute goods. I'll start with an example. Printer and ink substitutes tea and coffee. Printer, ink, tea and coffee. Tea and coffee, substitutes. Printer and ink, complementary goods. Right? Again, this is not new. Sir, you're teaching fast. My dear, all of this, right? Complementary goods, normal goods, inferior goods. We have covered it in the first session. I don't know where you were in the first session. There is no point in discussing the same point again and again. Right? Basically, what you're asking me to do is go 2 steps ahead and jump back 3 steps. At the end of the day, do you know where you will be? If you go 2 steps ahead and jump 3 steps back, you have not gone forward, you have gone back. So again, please understand this. We have discussed normal good, inferior good, complementary, substitute. All of this is not new. We have discussed earlier. That's the reason I'm directly entering into examples. Okay. So printer and ink, tea and coffee. This is an example of a substitute. This is an example of a complementary good. Now, first and foremost, cross elasticity of a demand. Why this is called as a cross elasticity of a demand? Simple. Until now, you are covering only one product. Price of the product changes. What will happen to demand? Income of the person changes. What will happen to demand? But in the context of cross elasticity of a product, we are comparing 2 products, not just one, 2 products. For example, printer is one product, ink is another product. Tea is one product, coffee is another product. But please understand this carefully. Substitute means you will have to either consume tea or coffee. Complementary means you'll have to consume both as a combination. Now let me start. Follow this discussion carefully. In case of complementary goods, right, is it okay if I say the price, right, the price and demand move in opposite direction? Let me know if you agree or disagree. In case of complementary goods, price and demand will move in opposite direction. And in case of substitutes, price and demand will move in same direction. Right? Somebody says no. Then basically you have not attended, right, afternoon session. I've discussed all of it. Right? Let's say price of the printer goes up. Demand for the printer will go down. And when the demand for the printer will go down, demand for ink will also automatically go down. Right? And basically it's application of what you have learned so far. Now have a look at this. If price of the printer goes up, right? Price of the printer goes up. Right? Can I simply say price has changed positively? Price is changing means price is going up, right? Outcome will be positive. Demand for the printer goes down, the change in the demand is negative. Any difficulty in understanding this? Okay, right? So price of the printer goes up, positive. Demand for the ink goes down, negative. Now substitute. Numerator is demand. So demand has changed by negative percentage. And denominator is price of the printer, which has changed by positive. Now tell me, negative divided by positive, what will be the outcome? Just think of it. Negative divided by positive, what will be the outcome? Outcome is positive. Outcome is positive. Outcome is negative. Right? Outcome is negative. Right? Basically UPSC, right? So much confusion. Outcome is negative. Negative divided by positive. Sir, how is that possible? Right? Simple. Let's say printer price was 100. It has jumped up to 110. So how much rise? Plus 10%. Ink. Earlier the demand for the ink was, let's say 50 units. Now the demand for the ink has fallen down, let's say, to 40 units. Again, don't worry, sir, why 50 units, why 40 units? Don't worry about it. But fact of the matter is, will the demand for the ink go down? Of course it will go down, right? So there is a decline in the demand for ink by how much? Minus 20%. Now substitute. Numerator is negative, denominator is positive. Cancel, cancel. Don't worry about the number here, but what is the outcome? Outcome is negative, right? Is it okay? Outcome is negative. Now have a look at this. Whenever the cross elasticity of a demand is less than 0, that is a negative, it is a complementary good. And don't you think printer and ink are complementary goods? Answer is yes, by the way. Substitutes. Now, price of the tea goes up. Let's start. Price of the tea goes up. So positive. Price of tea goes up. People will shift from tea to coffee. Demand for coffee will go up. Change is positive. Now substitute. Positive divided by positive. What is the outcome? Positive. Can I simply say that if you have a CD greater than 0, if you have a CD greater than 0, that is basically substitutes, right? That is a concept of substitutes. Agreed? Can I go to the next one? Now some of you will basically say, right sir, you have written the third one here, CD is equal to 0. Any example? Please understand this. Whenever you are trying to compare unrelated goods, don't do the calculation, simply write CD is equal to 0. Sir, how? How is that possible? I'll give a very simple example. Imagine you read the newspaper, and in the newspaper it was stated that price of the tea has gone up in one part of the newspaper, and in another part of the newspaper they also wrote that demand for ink also has gone up. Understand my statement, right? In one part of the newspaper they say that price of the tea has gone up. In another part of the newspaper they have also written demand for ink has gone up. Now you will apply your CSAT mind and say that, okay, price of tea has gone up, positive. Demand for ink has gone up, positive. So positive divided by positive, positive. You will jump to the conclusion, tea and ink are substitutes. Right? Tea and ink are substitutes. Now simple question to you people, do you think it is correct? Think of it. Right? Tea and ink are substitutes. That is what you have arrived at. Which means if you don't like tea today, if the price of the tea goes up, you will start drinking ink. Right? So understand this. Whenever there are unrelated goods, and what are unrelated goods? Substitutes and complementary. These are unrelated goods. Whenever there are unrelated goods, simply say CD is equal to 0. That's it. Don't calculate, don't waste your time. CD is equal to 0. Done. So 3 elasticities related to demand. 4th one, right? Price elasticity of supply. PES. Last related to microeconomics. After this, basically you will come across macro now. After this, everything is macro. Don't worry. Price elasticity of supply. What is this idea of a price elasticity of supply? It will measure the change in the supply with the percentage change in the price of the product. That is basically, if the PES, right, if the PES is, right, let's say greater than 1, which means, look at the formula here, percentage change in the supply of the product divided by percentage change in the price of the product. Right? Let's say if the price of the product changes by 1%, right, how much is the percentage change in the supply of the product? That measurement is called as price elasticity of supply. And if PS is greater than 1, then this is called as inelastic supply. Right? This is referred to, it is referred as a elastic supply. And if PS is less than 1, it is called as inelastic supply. And right, understand this. It's basically a factual information substitution. You will get the outcome. Now there are 2 questions here, and again the wordings might be different, but the gist of the question is simple. Sir, where do we use these elasticities? right? Is there any application of the elasticities? I'll tell you. Please understand the logic here. Whenever you're talking about the economy, you need to find out whether the production and supply of a good, let me focus on price elasticity of supply, right? Production and supply, right, should match in the market, in the sense, if the prices are increasing, supply is, let's say, inelastic. Just think of it. Prices are increasing, supply is inelastic, meaning what? Prices are growing at a very faster pace compared to supply in the market. Don't you think that will create certain destability in the market? Prices are going up, you cannot supply much faster, then it could lead to, this is the reason I'm worried about using these technical terms, it could lead to inflation. Because the prices are going up very, very fast, but you are not able to match the supply. Because the argument is simple here. If the prices are increasing, if you start supplying more and more, supply increases in the market, it will help in cooling down the demand in the market. But if the prices keep on increasing prices keep on increasing at a faster rate compared to the supply, then it simply means there is a lot of inflation in the market. You will not be able to match the demand in the market. And that's the reason I generally don't, because I know you have not read about inflation as of now. Inflation will come later. That's the reason. Just stick to the basics here. Just stick to basics. As and when we keep on learning more and more concepts, you will understand, okay, this product has an elastic supply. This product is inelastic. Right? I'll give a very simple example. You might have seen Government of India changing taxes on fuels. You must have seen Government of India changing taxes on alcoholic products. How many of you know what is the reason? One is a taxation. One is a taxation, agreed. What is the other reason? Other reason is these generally have inelastic demand. I'll repeat the statement. These generally have inelastic demand, right? What do you mean by that? Prices can change. Imagine tomorrow Government of India will increase the taxes. I'll give a current affairs example. If you've read the today's newspaper, yesterday there was announcement of Tamil Nadu budget. Again, is it required for UPSC? Of course no. Right? I'll talk about union budget. A couple of days ago, central government announced a budget. And they have proposed a higher taxation on tobacco products, which will make cigarettes costlier. And because of the Tamil Nadu government, even the cigarettes will become much more costlier. But don't you think if you apply the law of demand, government should be concerned? Because law of demand states that if the price of the commodities go up, demand will go down. Right? But if you talk about, let's say, products such as liquor, products such as tobacco, demand doesn't change. Why? These are said to be having inelastic demand. I hope you understand. These are said to be having inelastic demand. Inelastic demand means what? Demand doesn't change. Demand most of the times will remain same irrespective of the taxation. For example, if a person is, let's say, a chain smoker means continuously will keep on smoking. Do you think they will reduce the amount of cigarettes that they smoke based on the taxation? How many of you think people will decide how many cigarettes they are supposed to smoke based on taxes? Right? Do you think that is how the tobacco consumption actually works? Or do you think based on the taxes, people will decide how much liquor they want to consume? Argument is no. Right? Then that's a fact. And that is where the application of all of these come in real life. But again, don't worry. This is a first class for you. I hope you understand. This is a first class. Don't fall into tension right now. So much in economics. So difficult. So confusing. So many concepts. My dear, this is the first class. You want everything to be clear today itself. You may not get it today. But as the time passes by, as you get adjusted with these kind of terminologies, concepts will become much more clear to you people. Done? Okay, so 4 types of elasticities. Right? Any doubts? Let me know. Price elasticity of demand in PPT, there is a luxurious item demand is negative. Then maybe PD less than just let me check what I've written. PD is less than 1. Okay, what is the issue here? Price elasticity of demand in PPT, there is a luxurious item demand negative. Sarthak, can you please clarify your question? I'm confused by the question, right? So just let me know what is the question. Okay. Let me go to the next one then. Savings, investment, right? Savings, investment, and capital formation. Right? Let's start. Important concept. Please be very, very careful. Right? This is important. Right? And again, congrats. Microeconomics is over for you. You have basically entered into the concept of macroeconomics. You have entered into macroeconomics now. You'll understand one by one. Let's start then. Now, whenever you talk about savings, investment, and capital formation, what is the meaning of each of them? First, I will tell you the definition. Then I'll start with an example. Let's start. People will have certain amount of earnings. Part of the earnings, people will use it to consume goods or services immediately and will have certain amount of money left out. That amount of money that they keep or they are left out after, right, taking care of the expenditure, that is called as savings. I'll give you examples. Have patience. Then what is investment? These savings, right, generally will lead to a lot of investment in the economy. Right? I'll give you an example. Let's start here. Imagine here is a person. The person has an income of 100. Income of 100. Out of the income of 100, person has to pay certain taxes to government. Person has to pay certain taxes to government. Now, out of the income of 100, if you deduct the taxation or taxes, what is left out is disposable income. Any difficulty in understanding these? Let me know. You have income of 100 rupee. Government will collect certain taxes from you. After deducting taxes, what is left out is called as disposable income. Right? What is the meaning of it? Imagine you join as IAS officer, or let's say you are a software engineer right now. The company will give you 1 lakh rupees a salary. But how many of you think the company paying you 1 lakh rupees means you will receive a salary of 1 lakh? How many of you think that in your account 1 lakh rupee will be given or credited by the company? The answer is no, you will not receive 1 lakh. That's simple. You will not receive 1 lakh. Why? Government of India says income taxes. Right? So is it okay if I write it as income that you are supposed to receive minus the taxes that you will pay to the government? Whatever is left out is nothing but the amount that you can spend. The taxes you can't spend. I hope you understand this. If your salary is 1 lakh and your income tax is 15,000 rupees, out of this 1 lakh, you cannot spend 15,000. How much maximum you can spend? 85,000 rupees. Done? Now, after you deduct the taxes, whatever is remaining, it is called as a disposable income. Point number 1. Let's say I'll take the same number. Disposable income is 85 rupees. Now, next point. Come to the next point. Out of this 85 rupees, imagine you will use 5 rupees for, right, let's say petrol. Again, don't ask me, sir, 5 rupees, what will I get in petrol? That is not important. Right, so 5 rupees for petrol, 10 rupees for food, right? Let's say another 12 rupees for, let's say, rent, another, let's say, 12 rupees for clothing, etc. I'll take a simple number. Imagine you will spend 55 rupees like this. Can I call this as expenditure on food, fuel, cloth, etc., etc.? I'll call this as expenditure. Now you are left out with how much? 30 rupees. Now this 30 rupees, can I call this as savings? Any difficulty? Let me know. Right now, if you ask me, sir, what if I spend all the 85 rupees? Congrats, you do not have any savings. Right? And what if you say, sir, I've spent, let's say, 120 rupees. congrats, you have borrowed more than what you have earned. I understand this. You have borrowed more money in the market and spent more than what you've actually earned in that month, which is not actually preferable. But anyways, let's keep it simple. But understand this, why do you think people save? Right? I have a look at that also. Why do you think people save? People save because they need money for spending in future. Simple. For future consumption. Right? For example, after you finish the class, right, you will go home, or you will be sitting outside. Your parents will look at you and say, at your age, I had a savings of 5 lakh rupees. At your age, I saved 10 lakh rupees in the bank FD, etc., etc. Or else they will start giving you gyan, right? Beta, beti, start saving money. In future, there will be requirement, etc., etc., etc. So logic is simple. Savings is done so that you have money to spend in the future. But don't you think you will take this 30 rupees? I'll take a very simple example and put this 30 rupees in a bank. Sir, why in the bank? I'll keep it in my pocket. You can do that also, right? Absolutely no, right? Nothing against it. No policy against it. But your parents would have told you one more thing. Don't keep cash with yourself. Whatever is a limited amount you keep, remaining you keep it in the bank. FD, keep it in FD, they will say. In fact, tomorrow I'll prove that even if you keep in FD, it is useless. You are actually losing money. I'll discuss that tomorrow. Have patience. But come to the point here. You will keep money in the bank. Now, next point is, do you think the bank will collect 30 rupees from you and doesn't use it for any purpose? Don't you think the bank will use that 30 rupees, give it as a loan to a company? At any point, if you disagree with this argument, let me know. Right? So basically, they will give it as a loan to a company. Now imagine a manufacturer has taken a loan. Now the company will take this loan and purchase a machine. Purchase a machine from the market. Now, if the machine is purchased, can I also say that the production will increase? This is what is expected to happen. The production will increase, supply of goods and services to the market will increase, people will get jobs, people salaries will increase, they will start purchasing more and more goods and services from the market, etc., etc., etc. Cycle will continue. But understand the whole point here, right? Should you remember the numbers? Absolutely no. Understand the whole point. You have earned an income, part of it you have saved and you have invested in the bank deposit. Now that amount of savings has converted into creation of assets in the economy. Yes or not? Let me know. Right? You have saved money. You have put that money into a bank. Bank has given it as a loan. Company has taken the loan, purchased a machine. Right? They will produce more and more goods and services, sell it in the market. Is it not leading to creation of asset in the market? Is it not leading to creation of infrastructure in the market? Answer is yes, by the way. So whenever these kind of assets are created, I hope you understand this. Whenever these kinds of assets are created, we'll simply call this as investment. Is it okay? Rather than writing it here, I'll have to write it here. The company has taken the loan, and do you think company is sitting quiet? No, company has invested the money in purchasing a machine. Company has invested the money in, let's say, creation or let's say setting up of a new manufacturing facility. It has invested the money in construction of a road, etc., etc., etc. Right? So have a look at this. First, people save. Then these savings are basically used in the economy and investment will take place in the economy. Right? Is it difficult? Right? Any problem here? Let me know now itself. Because this is what you need to understand. So first, savings will happen. Right? Savings, again, what is the idea of savings? The money that you have is greater than the expenditure. Right? So out of, let's say, 85 rupees, you have spent 55 rupees, you are left with 30. That is your savings. So those savings will be converted into, let's say, investment in the market. And understand the logic here. This investment, it is good. The investment should happen in the economy, right? Don't you think if India wants to become a developed country, we need to invest more and more? In fact, tomorrow and next week, Saturday, we'll have a lot of discussion related to this, right? What is this idea of, let's say, GDP, how investment will contribute to GDP, etc., etc. So have a look at this. Out of 85, 30 rupees is savings, and out of 30 savings, right, you keep it in the bank, and that has been mobilized into investment, creation of assets in the economy. Now, this is point number one. Point number two, is it okay if I say, if the investments have to happen in the economy, there are three very important participants. Follow this carefully. I'm talking about the same cycle. If the investments have to happen in the economy, right, in this cycle, there are three very important participants. One, people who are earning income should be willing to save money. First point. People who are earning income should be willing to save money. And second, those savings should be collected, mobilized by the banking sector. And third, the companies which will take a loan from the bank and invest in the market. Let me know. There are three very important participants here. One, the person who is earning money should be willing to save money. Right? If the person doesn't save money, where is the question of putting it in the bank? If they don't put it in the bank, basically how investments will happen? So one, person or people who are willing to save money. Second, institutions such as bank, we should be able to take away the savings of the people, right? That is important. And third, companies which are willing to borrow from the bank and invest in the economy. Any difficulty in understanding this? Let me know. What is disposable income? My dear, after taxes, out of your income, whatever taxes are withdrawn, after that, whatever you have, it is called as disposable income. In fact, it is there in the slide itself. It is there in the slide, right? So this is how investment will happen. But please understand, can I say that this investment that is taking place, it is because of savings in the domestic market? Is it okay? The investment that is taking place here, it is because of the savings in the domestic market. Can we also have investments which are flowing from external market? Is it possible? Of course, yes. We can also have investments which are flowing in the Indian economy from the foreign market. How it is possible? I'll take a very simple example. You tell me whether it is correct or not. A company, foreign company by the way, such as Apple, will bring $1 billion into India, invest in setting up of manufacturing facility. You tell me, is it an investment that is flowing into India from the external market or not? Think of it. Yes or no? Let me know. There's a technical term for this. We'll have a look at it later. Don't worry. Is it an investment in India? Yes. Is it coming from within the Indian market? No, it is coming from the foreign market. Sir, any other example? Somebody says no. Why? It is a foreign investment. Foreign investment that is happening in India. That is the reason. Okay, this is called basically investment, but not from the domestic market, from the foreign market. Then, can I give you one more example? Here is a company. This company can take a loan from a bank within India and invest. That is basically from the domestic market. Savings in the domestic market, getting into investment. From the same company, what if the company goes outside India? Outside India, borrows from a bank outside India and will invest in India. Can this also be a foreign investment? I hope you understand. Foreign investment in the sense, investment being brought from the foreign market. Some of you will simply say, sir, foreign investment means that, this, etc. Let me rephrase it. Can it also be referred to as investment coming into India, but from outside India? Let me rephrase it this way. I'll give you current affairs example so that you understand. Right? Adani Group of companies. Adani Group of companies. Have they borrowed money from the domestic market? Have they taken loan from SBI? Answer is yes, by the way. If you have read the newspaper, you will understand it very quickly. But in addition to borrowing from the domestic market, have they borrowed, right? Have they borrowed from an external market? Have they taken loan from a foreign bank? Answer is again yes. So argument is simple here. Investment in a market such as, let's say, India can happen because of savings within the domestic market. And the investment can also happen because the money has been saved somewhere else outside India, but we have brought the money inside into India, or they have only come invested in India. Right? It could happen either ways. But ultimately, please understand this. Ultimately, whether the investment is coming from within India or from outside India doesn't matter, as long as it contributes to higher growth. That is a higher investment, higher employment, right? Higher creation of, let's say, goods and services, higher exports, etc., etc., etc. We want to achieve that. Now, don't you think in this regard itself, government is promoting foreign investments in India? Just think of it. Some of you will be asking the same question, sir, why? Why should I study all of it? I'll ask you a very simple question. Have you heard of production linked incentives? PLI scheme was there in the newspaper. Have you heard of Make in India initiative? Startup India initiative? What do you think government of India is trying to do with all of these reforms? Attract investment. I understand this. Attract a lot of investment into the domestic market. Right? That is basically the idea of savings, investment, and the third one, capital formation. Third one is capital formation. First and foremost, capital means what? Capital refers to certain assets such as machines, equipments, tools, etc. That is capital. But just think of this and answer. Just think of it. Don't you think from 1 year to next year or year after year, there will be more and more machines created and added to the economy? Just think of it. Right? Don't you think from year to 1 year or year after year, more and more machines will be created, produced, and added to the economy? More and more manufacturing facilities will be set up, added to the economy. So whenever you talk about capital, it refers to the total set of, let's say, machineries, tools, equipments which are created, which are there in the economy right now. But the process is that from 1 year to next year, from one time period to next time period, more capital would be created and added to the economy. That process is called as capital formation. Any doubts here? Let me know. That process is called as capital formation. I'll give an example also. Imagine right now, take a very simple example. Imagine right now, 100 crore worth of machines are there in India. 100 crore worth. In the next 1 year, 20 crore rupees worth of machines are created, added to the economy. So after 1 more year, what is the total amount of capital in the Indian economy? What is the total amount of capital? 120 crore. But can I simply say that 20 crore rupees is the capital formation in 1 year? Let me know if you disagree or if you have a doubt. Argument is very simple, right? From 1 year to next year, from one time period to another time period, there is a lot of investment in creation of assets. We invest a lot. And when you keep on investing for creation of assets, to the existing assets, new assets will be added. So in 1 year, let's say how many new assets are getting added? That is called as capital formation. Now, simple question to you people. right? Have a look at this simple question to you people. What is good? Higher capital formation or lower capital formation? Just think of it and answer. What do you think is good? Having a higher capital formation or a lower capital formation? Thanks a lot, right? Basically, it is a higher capital formation. Thanks a lot. You should be investing more and more from 1 year to next year. Your investment should increase. Your investment should not fall, because higher the investment, higher will be the production, higher will be the employment creation. At least that is the connection we are trying to make here. So from 1 year to next year, investments should keep on increasing, and that is good for the economy. And how do we measure this? The capital formation rate is basically the total amount of investments divided by GDP into 100. Now you have come across one more terminology, GDP. What is GDP here? GDP is gross domestic product. In fact, that is the next chapter for you people. Gross domestic product, GDP. Now what is gross domestic product? Simple. The market price of all the final goods and services which are produced in a country. I'll repeat it. Don't worry about definition. It is there in the next chapter. What is GDP? The market price of all the final goods and services which are produced in a country, that is called as GDP. Gross domestic product. Now, is it okay if I say that if you want to increase the GDP, just think of it and answer. If you want to increase the GDP, you should also increase investments. Let me know. In order to increase the GDP, you should also increase investments. Right? Answer is yes, by the way. And that is a precise reason the government keeps on saying that investments should happen in the economy. Investments should keep on increasing in the economy. Right? That is why we basically say that, generally we say that gross capital formation or the rate of capital formation of anywhere around 40% is good. I repeat, capital formation rate, right? Understand this. They will also use the another term. I'll use another term here. Rate of capital formation, or else they will also use gross capital formation. Gross capital formation, GCF. Right? Technical term, I know, please remember this. Gross capital formation, the rate of gross capital formation is 40%. That is preferable. There is no absolute number as such, but if your country wants to increase the production, increase the GDP, etc., the gross capital formation rate should be higher. What is the rate of gross capital formation in India? It is somewhere around 30% plus now. It should be more than 40 if you want to grow at a faster pace. It is somewhere right over 30% as per the recent data. Okay, done. Now, what is the importance of capital formation? Okay, one is it will increase the production. Anybody disagrees? Let me know. If you invest more, automatically the production in the economy will increase. It is associated with better labor efficiency, because investment is happening, more and more production will take place. We expect employees to use better technology, better machinery, increase the productivity. Efficiency is going to increase. It is also associated with progress in the technology. Like I've already told you, when you keep on investing more and more, you will not keep on using same technology. You will keep on investing for better technology. It is associated with research and development. It is associated with productivity in the economy. Okay, better utilization of natural resources. And you just have a look at today's technology compared to earlier technology. What kind of technology did we use, let's say 10 years ago or 20 years ago? Don't you think with better technology, we are able to utilize the resources much more efficiently? Have we not increased the productivity of the labor? Have we not increased the overall productivity of the economy? That is generally what is associated with higher rate of capital formation. Next, it is associated with rising demand, rising supply of goods as well as services. And that is a precise reason we generally say that capital formation rate should be higher, should be more than 40 or somewhere in the range of 40% plus, so that it will contribute to higher production, higher productivity, higher growth in the employment, higher contribution to GDP. Done? So this is the discussion related to capital formation. Now the last concept related to this, capital formation is generally divided into two parts. First and foremost, you tell me, is it okay if I say whenever you use the term capital, you're talking about assets? You're talking about certain assets which are created. Any problem with this? Okay? Any problem with this? You're talking basically about assets. Can I go forward now? Somebody says no. Then what did you understand when I discuss capital? Capital is basically, let's say, machines, roads, let's say manufacturing facility, and all of these are considered assets, my dear, because they give certain returns to you. These are referred to as assets. Now have a look at this. These assets are divided into two parts. Right? These are divided into two parts here. One is called as a GFCF. Long form is given here. Please have a look at this. Gross fixed capital formation. And second one is stock. Right? What is stock? Basically, it refers to certain part of the assets. I'll come to that. Just give me a minute. Now, how do you differentiate between what is a GFCF, what is a stock? Now, first and foremost, now please understand this, participate. Participate. More you participate, it becomes easier. Otherwise, everything is technical for you. Imagine you're a manufacturer. You will take a loan of 100 rupee and you will invest, and let's say you purchase a machine. You purchase a machine. Now, simple question to you people. When you invest and purchase a machine, do you think this investment is for longer duration or the investment is for shorter duration? That is, you will keep on spending money on machine every now and then, or you invest in this machine for 10 years, you will use the machine. Can I simply say that this investment that you have done on machine, it is long term? Is it okay? It is long term. You don't incur the machine expenditure on everyday basis. It is long term investment. Right? But on the other hand, what about stocks? That is, I'll give a very simple example. You have produced a good. You have produced a good. Now, simple question to you. In order to produce the goods, will you not incur expenditure very often? In the sense, you will have to purchase raw materials weekly or monthly. You will have to pay, let's say, the electricity bill monthly. You will have to pay wages, right, for the employees who are producing the goods monthly. So understand the logic here. You have created two sets of assets like this. Capital you divide into two parts. On one part, that is, let's say, machinery, the investment that you have done is for a longer duration. But on the other hand, on certain goods that you're creating, the money that you're going to spend is a recurring expenditure. It is a recurring expenditure. Any difficulty in understanding this, let me know. It is a long-term expenditure. It is a recurring expenditure. Is the logic okay here? For machines, you'll have to keep on spending money, right, to purchase raw material, to pay electricity bill monthly. You'll have to pay, let's say, basically for labor, wages, etc., etc. So on one side, the expenditure is incurred very much recurringly. Recurringly means on day-to-day basis. But on the other hand, you have spent money. It is for a long duration. You have invested and purchased a machine. You will not throw it tomorrow and purchase one more machine. You will not throw the second machine after 1 week and purchase third machine. No, you have purchased a machine means it is for a longer duration. So understand the logic here. Whenever you create assets, right? Where the investment is done for a very, very longer duration. Durability is there. These are called as gross fixed capital formation. Best example for this is a machinery. But on the other hand, you also have spent money in creation of certain other assets, but this expenditure is recurring in nature. It is recurring in nature, hence, right, this is called as a stock. And please understand, stock will keep on changing on day-to-day basis. On day-to-day basis, stock will keep on changing. How many goods you have produced today? It will change tomorrow. Again, day after tomorrow, how much is there? It will keep on changing. That is the differentiation between the GFCF and the stock. That is basically the differentiation between both of them. Done? Any doubts here? Let me know. Any doubts here? I'm focused on this for a very simple reason. When you read books, they will define it like this. They'll say gross fixed capital formation is the investment which is done on fixed assets, they will say. I hope you understand. Many of you can search, you can read it in the book. That's a wrong definition, in fact. They'll say it is an investment on fixed assets, such as machine, it is fixed, they will say. Right? Let's say manufacturing facility, it is fixed, they will say. Wrong. Wrong for a very simple reason. Machine can be moved also. And they'll simply say stocks, these are movable. These are nothing but goods. Raw materials, let's say intermediary goods, etc., etc. These are movables. Hence, because these are movables, I will call it as stock. Right? But the argument is simple here. The expenditure that is incurred for a very longer duration or once very longer duration, that is called as gross fixed capital formation. Whereas the expenditure that is incurred to create an asset, right, which basically involves, let's say, raw materials, day-to-day expenditure, inventories, etc., that is called as stocks. Right? This is how gross capital formation is divided into two parts. Okay, right? So this is the discussion regarding savings, capital formation, and investment. So that's it for the first chapter now. Right? What we have covered is again microeconomics, and related to microeconomics, we have discussed certain important concepts, and after that we have discussed one macroeconomic concept, that is savings, investment, and capital formation. Okay. Now let's start with the questions. Okay, just check what is the correct option that I've given. Just check. Let's analyze it. Right. Okay, I've given C. My mistake then. My mistake. Right. So let's start. Don't worry. Let's solve it. Other things are remaining unchanged. Unchanged means constant. Market demand for a good might increase if, okay, price of its substitute increases. Tea and coffee. Let's start. Tea and coffee. If the price of its substitute increases, the demand for coffee increases. That is what they have asked. Okay, so first one is correct. Price of its complement increases. If the price of the complement increases, demand will not increase. It will rather, fall. Right? 2 is wrong. So wherever 2 is there, obviously, right, you will have to eliminate it. The good is an inferior good and the income of the consumer increases. If the income of the consumer increases, opposite relation, the demand should come down, right? So it will not increase, it will rather come down. 3 is wrong, so wherever, right, 3 is there, it should be eliminated. I've given a wrong option. My mistake. Okay, its price will fall. Basically, law of demand. If the price of the product falls, the demand will go up. The demand will go up. Right, so 1 is correct, 4 is correct. Right option is A. I'll repeat it again. Right option is A. Some of you saying D is correct. No, D is not correct. Right, wherever 2 is there, wherever 3 is there, you will have to eliminate. Obviously, the B will be wrong, C will be wrong, and D will be wrong. A is the right option. Can I go to the next one? Anybody has a doubt here? My mistake. Some of you are saying, sir, right, you have given C is correct. My mistake, right? It should be A. It should be A. Okay. Point 3. The good is an inferior good, right? My dear, inferior good means income and demand are inversely related. We might have discussed this concept of inferior good at least 15 times today then, right? Both are inversely related. If income goes up, demand goes down, right? The market demand for the good increases. It doesn't increase, it will fall down. Okay, that is the reason. Let's go to the next one. What is VAT? I'll explain that, don't worry. Right, 56% have answered correctly. I'll explain. Some of you might be concerned with the VAT. Don't worry, I'll explain it. Which of the following can add to aggregate demand? Aggregate means total demand. Right? Which of the following will contribute to demand? Increase in the demand. Lowering of income tax rate. Any difficulty with the point number 1? Point number is very, very straightforward. In fact, the application of what I discussed some time ago. If Government of India reduces income tax rate, your disposable income will go up. If your disposable income goes up, that it will contribute to aggregate demand, right? So it's a very straightforward statement. First one is correct. Increase in the cost of raw materials. Okay, increase in the cost of raw materials. No, if the raw material cost increases, then the market price of the product should increase. And if the market price of the product increases, obviously the demand will go down. 2 is wrong. Increase in the VAT, value added tax. VAT, value added tax. When there is a value added tax, I'll discuss in detail later, but simple understanding. Imagine you're purchasing a good worth 100 rupee. Earlier state governments used to impose VAT on this. That is, let's say 10 rupee tax is added. So in the market, you will be asked to pay 110 rupees to purchase the good. Value added tax was a type of a tax earlier. Today we don't have it. It has been subsumed under the GST. We'll discuss it next week. Don't worry. Okay. So third one is also wrong. If VAT is increased, market prices automatically will go up and the demand will go down. So right option for the question will be option A. Only one is correct. Next. Right, sir, leaderboard. My dear, please understand. In the first question, right, many of you have written the right option. Given the right option, I made a mistake by choosing option C. So in that case, your leaderboard ranking will also be, right, slightly disrupted. Don't worry about it. Okay. 38% answer correctly, 49% have answered wrong. And I'll tell you the reason. Most of you have chosen all are correct without realizing they're asking about expansion, contraction. You tell me, expansion, contraction, is it associated with shift of the curve or movement of the along the curve? Just think of it. We have discussed this, by the way. Whenever you talk about expansion or contraction of the the price and demand, is it associated with shift or movement? It is associated with movement, right? Movement along the curve. And next point is, when you say movement along the curve, is it going to happen only because the price is changing or any other factor is changing? For example, there is a change in the taste and preference. Do you think the demand will contract and expand? No, it will lead to shift of the curve, increase or decrease in the demand. Change in the income of the consumer, again, please understand, it doesn't lead to expansion, contraction, it will lead to increase or decrease. Right one is option A, only one is correct. Only one is correct. Okay, next one. Sir, it is difficult. Okay, I'll answer this. Okay, 69% have answered correctly. Income effect on the demand of inferior goods will be, that is, when the income will change. Imagine this is income. Income going up, income going down. Now, in case of inferior goods, again, one more time on inferior goods. In the context of inferior goods, when the income goes up, what will happen to demand for inferior goods? Demand for inferior goods will move in opposite direction, go down. And when the income, right, will go down, what will happen to demand for inferior goods? It will go up. Now, what is the impact of income on the demand for inferior goods? Is it positive or negative? It is negative. That is what they have asked you in the question. That is what they have asked. Income effect on the demand for inferior goods will be negative. Right option is option B. Okay, I'll not start polling. It is a direct, straightforward question. Solve it. Right? Either you know it or you don't know it. There is nothing much to even conceptualize in this. Which of the following statements is or are correct regarding public goods? Public goods are excludable but non-rivalrous. No. Public goods are non-excludable but rivalrous. Public goods are neither excludable nor rivalrous. Option C is the right one. But in fact, I'll be very frank with you. Even when you take up, let's say, optional economics, right, at the optional level, even public goods are further divided. Pure public goods and public goods. Again, they are subdivided. For GS paper, you don't have to go to that particular depth. Right option is option C. Next, a descriptive question. Capitalism has guided the world economy to unprecedented prosperity. However, it often encourages short-sightedness and contributes to wide disparities between the rich and poor. In this light, would it be correct to believe and adopt capitalism for bringing inclusive growth in India? Now, there's a term called as inclusive growth. Do not worry about this today. Don't be confused. Don't be worried about it. We will cover inclusive growth in the last session, because to understand inclusive growth, you require everything. You require banking, you require industrial policy, you require inflation, you require agriculture. So when we discuss inclusive growth, right, you will be knowing all the concept first, then we'll take up inclusive growth. So right now, don't worry. But simple question to you people, just think of it. You have answered it to already. I've answered to this question already. Do you think capitalism is the best model suitable for India? right? And understand this, we have discussed it already. You need to apply what you have understood so far in the first session of the economy. Capitalism, no doubt, will promote competition, will promote employment, right? Will lead to higher production, etc., etc., etc. Write the advantages. So how do I approach this kind of a question? Simple. Start with the introduction. There are three parts to the question: introduction, main body, and conclusion. Right? Start with the introduction. What will be your introduction? That is basically what is the definition of capitalism. We have discussed it. Write the definition. What are the advantages of the capitalism? Right. What are the advantages? Investment will be higher. Employment generation will take place. Production of goods and services would increase. Employment will increase, etc. But having said so, do you think capitalism has certain concerns? Write the concerns now. What are the concerns? Wealth inequality will be there. It will keep on increasing. Income inequality will be there. That will also keep on increasing. Right? And as a result of capitalism, you will also see that private sector is polluting, contributes to environmental degradation. We will produce a certain goods, right? We'll produce certain goods which are harmful, but the option is there, we'll produce, sell it, make a lot of profits. Now, you have given the advantages, you also have written the concerns related to capitalism. Now tell me, is a capitalism's best suited model for Indian economy? Answer is no. Why? That is your conclusion. In India, the population which falls into poverty is very, very high. The wealth inequality in India is already very high. Keeping in mind all these factors, we should not be promoting or we should not be adopting capitalism as a model. Rather than this, the mixed economy model, which takes into consideration of capitalism or takes features of capitalism as well as mixed economy, and the government protects the interest of or the welfare of the economy, should be adopted, and that is the best model suitable for India. That is your conclusion. Okay, that is basically your conclusion. Done. So this is generally how you approach a descriptive kind of question. Again, sir, first class descriptive question, I don't know. Please don't worry. It is just a matter of practice. And here is a pointer. Please practice answer writing. This is my sincere suggestion to you people. Practice answer writing. Every day, at least one question you pick up, practice. One question, practice. So that by the time you have written the UPSC preliminary examination, you would have written at least, let's say, 300, 400, 500, 600 descriptive questions along with the answers. And that practice will help you in writing mains paper. Because many of you will simply say, right, sir, we are first focused on prelims, then focused on mains. My dear, after passing prelims, generally around 2.5 months to 3 months is there for preparing mains. And that time is not sufficient for everyone. Underline my term, everyone. There will be certain people who will do that as well. But again, that is very, very hectic process. So for you, you already have a lot of time. Start picking up, start writing the answers, right? At least one answer every day. 150 worded answer, 250 worded answer. Two types of questions are asked in UPSC mains. Done? Okay. So the next chapter or the next topic that we'll take up is National Income Aggregates, NIA. And the types that we'll be covering under the concept of National Income Aggregates is, first we'll start with the types of National Income Aggregates. The best one, right, basically is GDP. The most important one for your examination is GDP. For example, if you have read newspaper, right, let's say at least for last 1 week, right, frankly tell me, have you not come across the terminology GDP at least once every day in the newspaper? If I've read the last, let's say 3 to 4 days newspaper itself, at least 100 times the GDP terminology would have appeared in the newspaper. So there are multiple types, right? I'll give you a list, don't worry. One is a GDP, gross domestic product. Second one is right, GNP, gross national product. Third one is a NDP, net domestic product. Fourth one is a NNP, net national product. And the fifth one is NI, national income. We'll go one by one. But having said so, I will only tell this to you. Out of all these five, the most important one is GDP. Most important one. In fact, question on GDP has come in mains. Question on GDP has come in prelims as well. Right? So GDP is very important, and if you're reading newspaper, I'm pretty sure you would have not come across these terminologies, but this every day will be there in the newspaper. And that's a precise reason we'll focus a lot on the discussion of GDP. And trust me, we will discuss easier aspect of GDP, and we will also discuss certain technical aspects, calculation of GDP, which was asked by UPSC in the mains examination of 2021. So we'll start with the types of GDP. Second one, we will take up GDP methodology. Then we'll discuss per capita income. And here is a very small homework for you. Tomorrow you will have to tell me what is the latest data of per capita income of India. And there is a reason why I'm asking you. I'll give you a hint. Finance Minister gave you this data in the recent budget. I hope you understand. Right? Very, very recently it was there in the newspaper. Now, pro and counter cyclical growth, vicious and virtuous cycle of a growth, and then we will take up, as usual, questions related to GDP. Now, let me start with the first one. Let me start with the first one here. That is gross domestic product. A concept of GDP or gross domestic product. Now, what is this gross domestic product? Already I've given the definition to you. What is the definition? GDP simply measures the market price of all the goods and services. Again, when I say all the goods and services, final goods and services which are produced in a country, in a particular country, right, is referred to as GDP. I'll give a simple example. Imagine in India, we have 10 final goods and services, and the market price is, I'll take a simple number so that you understand, is 15 rupees. Then the GDP of India will be how much? 150 rupees. Any difficulty understanding this? Let me know. Right? What is the market price of all the final goods and services which are produced in a country? That is basically referred to as gross domestic product. But when I say it is produced in a country, right, understand this next point carefully. What is the time period? What is the month that we are looking at? Because continuously there is a production. Understand the logic here. GDP is calculated for full financial year. What is the concept of a full financial year? Remember this, right? This is going to start now. Financial year starts on the 1st of April. It will start from the 1st of April and ends on 31st March. For example, current financial year. Understand this. Current financial year. What is the current financial year? I'll start using short form here. FY. Current financial year will simply say 2022 to 2023. Right? What is this current financial year starting in 2022 to 2023? Simple. It has started from the 1st of April 2022 and right, it will end on 31st March of 2023. That is a basic idea for financial year. Now, if you basically sit and count, which you don't have to do, you will realize that there are 12 months. If you disagree, let me know. How many months are there? There are 12 months. All these 12 months can be divided into 6 months each. Is it okay? You can divide this into 6 months each. That is 2 groups. You'll start in the month of April. April, May, June, July, August, September. 6 months are done. So April to September, this is called as one half of a financial year. Then October will start, it will run till March. This is called as second half of the financial year. Any issues, let me know. First half, April to September. Second half, October to March. Now focus on April to September. I'll further divide this April to September into three groups of 3 months each. I'm sorry, two groups of 3 months each. April, May, June. So April to June is one group. July, August, September, that is second group. Can we do the same thing on the other side? October to December, that is one group. Then January to March will be second group. Any difficulty so far, let me know. I'm simply using calendar here. Now have a look at this. This is called as quarter 1. This is called as quarter 2. This is called as quarter 3. And this finally is quarter 4 or fourth quarter. Now having looked at all of this, you tell me we are in which quarter right now? Right, start answering. Right, hardly 20 minutes are left out. Don't worry, start answering. I'll wind up by 8 o'clock. Don't worry. We are in which quarter now? We are in the fourth quarter. Maithili says first quarter. My dear, please have a look at it. Vikas, it is not first quarter. We are in the fourth quarter. Right, we are in the month of March. I hope you understand. I'm sorry, February. Right, we are in the quarter of March. Right, so we are in the month of February. So it is the fourth quarter. Okay, it is a fourth quarter. Now, next point. GDP is calculated for every quarter. Simple. GDP is calculated for every quarter. For first quarter, GDP was this much. For second quarter, GDP was this much. For third quarter, GDP of this much, etc., etc. Right? So understand the logic. For every quarter, we calculate GDP, and for every financial year, we calculate GDP. That is the practice that we have cultivated. So that is gross domestic product. I'll repeat the definition here again. GDP basically refers to the market price of all the goods and services, all the goods and services which are produced in a country for a specific time period. That is, it could be a quarter, it could be for a full financial year. That is GDP. Point number 1. Second, now when I say, sir, here in definition you said GDP covers services, but earlier you said services are invisible. Then how will you calculate service in GDP? I'll come to that. So understand this. How do you measure GDP of a country? There are 3 methodologies. One is called as a output or product value method. Second one is a income method. Third one is expenditure method. I'll repeat it. One is a output or product value method. Second one is a income method. Third one is a expenditure method. Let's go one by one. What is the output or product value method? Simple. Under the output or product value method, we measure how much is the total production and we multiply this by market prices. Simple. What is the total production into the market prices? Let's say hypothetically, I'll take a very simple example so that you understand this. Imagine there is a country where only bottles are manufactured. Make it simple so that you will understand. I for a fact know, you for a fact know, one bottle, only one product is not manufactured in a country. But does it mean you need to find out how many goods are manufactured? How many services are manufactured? Then congrats, you have become a statistician, not an IAS officer. So don't waste your time. Let's say this is the product which has been manufactured, only one product. Done. Now, this particular product or this bottle, which is a product, 10 units have been manufactured. So total output in the country will be how much? 10 units. Agreed. Total output in a country will be 10 units. And the market price of each of the unit is, let's say, again, I'll take the simple number so that you understand, 15 rupees. Now tell me, what is the market price of all the final goods and services which are produced in this country? The market price of all the goods and services, final goods and services which are produced in the country is 150 rupees. And congrats, that is the GDP for you. Is it okay? That is the GDP for you. Now many of you simply say, sir, how is that possible? Right? We don't know how many goods are produced. That is the reason. There is a process. There is a process. Manufacturers will have to submit the data to the authority. There is an authority which is involved in, right, basically collecting the data, calculating and publishing the data, and that is NSO. It is there in the slide, don't worry. So the manufacturers, whoever is there producing goods like this, they will have to submit the data to the government, and the government will take the data, and that will be used, right, basically to find out how many final goods and services have been produced, what is the market price, and that will give you GDP. That's the first method. Second method is income method. Second one is income method. Now, simple question to you people, just think of this and answer. Please think of this. Imagine you're a producer of the bottle and you will decide to sell the bottle in the market at, I'll take a simple number, 100 rupees. Now my question to you people is, on what basis did you decide to price it at 100? What factors did you consider in deciding the price at 100 rupees? Can I tell you? You counted profits, right? Sir, I focused on demand. No, my dear, follow the discussion. Follow the discussion. You wanted to earn certain profit, let's say 10 rupees. You purchased a machine. The cost of the machine, let's say, is 20 rupees. You purchased or used labor services. You paid 30 rupees. And finally, right, let's say you set up a manufacturing facility or you purchase raw materials for which you paid 40 rupees. And this is why you calculated everything and you decided you want to sell it in the market at 100 rupees. Is it fair? Any doubts? Let me know. Is it not how people, or let's say sellers, will decide the market price? Will you not consider how much money you have paid or expenditure you have incurred in manufacturing of, let's say, a bottle? Will you not add profit, right, along with, let's say, labor wages, cost of raw materials, etc., etc.? A simple question to you people, can I simply call these as factors or related to factors of production? Let me know. Can I simply call this as all the expenditures associated with factors of production? And if these are the expenditure which are incurred by you, can I also call this as factor incomes? Let me know if you disagree, right? Basically what we have discussed in the first session, I'm using it here. Can I also call this as factor incomes? Now just think of it. In a country, goods are produced. These are sold in the market. But in the process of producing the goods, will companies not incur expenses in the form of factors of production? Right? That is basically what I'm talking about. Company will pay, let's say, 30 rupees for labor. That is a factor cost for the company. But that 30 rupees is a factor income in the economy. We have discussed all of this. What is a factor cost for the company becomes an income for the economy. Now, second method of calculating GDP is through income method. Take the sum total of all the factor incomes, that will give you GDP. In fact, I'll show it with an example. Just give me 2 minutes. Just give me 2 minutes. I'll show it. First one is what? Output method. Final goods and services into the market price. That is GDP. Second one is income method. Get the sum total of all the factor incomes generated. Get the sum total, that is GDP, through income method. Third one is expenditure method. Third one is expenditure method. Let's start. First and foremost, remember the concepts here. If I say GDP of India, GDP of India, can I simply say that all the final goods and services, all the final goods and services which are produced in India, that is very important, which are produced in India, their market prices will give me GDP. In fact, I'm writing the definition here. The market price of all the final goods and services which are produced in India will give me GDP. Right? Point number one. Now, can I simply say that point number two, follow this carefully. If a good is produced in India, it is exported to USA, it will still be counted as a part of India's GDP. Let me know. I'll repeat it again. If a good is produced in India, exported to USA, doesn't matter. It will still be counted as a part of India's GDP. Agreed? It is correct, by the way. Third point. If this pen is manufactured in USA, it is imported into India, this pen should not be counted as part of India's GDP. Right? If you disagree, let me know. I'll repeat it. If this pen is manufactured in USA, imported into India, it should not be counted as a part of India's GDP. Sir, why? Anything that is produced in India should be counted. Is it produced in India? No, it was imported. Hence, I will have to exclude it. Right? Sir, why are you discussing all of it? Follow this very carefully. Let's go back to the basics here. If I talk about expenditure incurred in India, let me know. If I talk about expenditure incurred in India on goods and services, who will incur expenditure? It has to be government. Agreed, including RBI. It has to be government. It has to be households. It has to be companies or firms. Now, apart from these three, is anybody left out in Indian economy? Already I've answered it. Again, I'm asking you. Government, companies, and households. Is anybody left out in the Indian economy who will spend money? On what? Obviously, goods and services. Right? Central government. My dear, central government is already there as a part of the government. Right? So understand this. My dear, wait. Answer to my question. Right? Answer to my question. Let's go one by one. You're basically jumping the gun. Have patience. So is there anybody left out? By the way, answer is nobody. I will only answer on your behalf. Let's say government has spent 100 crore rupees. Households have spent 200 crore rupees. Firms have spent 300 crore rupees in purchasing goods and services. Of course, final goods and services. Now have a look at this. 600 crores. Is it GDP? The total expenditure is 600 crore. Now let me ask you a very simple question. You are here. Right? You are part of households. Now what if you have imported this marker from USA? Don't you think because the marker was produced in USA, it should not be counted as part of India's GDP? Don't you think that should be done? Right? So you have spent 200 crore, but let's say out of 200 crore rupees, I have spent 1 crore rupees on imports. Now tell me, if 1 crore rupees worth of imports, should I be counting it as part of India's GDP? Will it not be wrong if I count import value as part of GDP? Can I do the same thing for firms also? Firms have imported certain machinery. Let's say 10 crore rupees worth of imports have been done. Should we count the 10 crore rupees as part of India's GDP? Again, the answer is simply no. Now let's account. Let's change the numbers then, don't worry. Out of 600 crore, I will subtract 11 crore rupees. What is left out? 589 crore rupees is left out. Now should I say 589 crore, which is expenditure done by the government, households, as well as the firms on final goods and services, do you think this is the GDP of India? No doubt this is. Have patience. Some of you are saying yes, have patience. That is a beauty. 580 crores is the total expenditure on final goods and services done by all of us within India, which are produced in India. But what about some of the goods which are produced in India but are exported? What about these goods and services? Is it part of 589 crore? It is not part of 589. Some of you will be confused, sir, why? These are exported. And when I say expenditure, if this flask is manufactured in India, exported to USA, it is not part of expenditure done by me, you, or anybody in the Indian economy. Right? So what I'll do, to 589 crore, I will add exports. Right? Let's say hypothetically export is 5 crore rupees. Now 589 crore, goods and services, final goods and services, produced in India, consumed in India. 5 crore rupees produced in India but consumed outside India. But because they are produced in India, it should be part of India's GDP. So what is India's GDP now? India's GDP is 594 crore rupees. Is it okay? Is this calculation okay? Should you remember the numbers? Absolutely no. Please do not remember the numbers. I'll give you a formula. Simple. Whatever government, households and companies have spent, I will use a terminology here. Household expenditure, have a look at this. Right? I'll simply say household expenditure is C. Right? That is how much money you have spent, how much money I have spent on final goods and services. I is expenditure done by companies. G is expenditure done by the government. Now, to all of this, right, will this C plus I plus G give me GDP? Of course no. It gives me total expenditure done by houses, that is you and me, government, as well as private sector companies. But some of these expenditures are on imported goods and services. Subtract it. Simply subtract it. But certain goods and services which are produced in India are exported. Don't you think that should be counted as part of India's GDP? Yes, add it. Right, so the formula is very simple here. C plus I plus G within the bracket X minus M. Rather than writing X minus M, some of the books will also write it as net exports. Don't be confused. They'll simply write it as net exports. So please do not be confused about it. Right? So this is how GDP is obtained for India through expenditure method. Done? Last point now, last point. So there are three methodologies. One is a production methodology. How many goods are produced? Final goods and services into the market price. Second one is the income method. Whatever factor incomes are generated in India, simply count the total, collect the factor incomes, get the sum of it. That is GDP through factor income method. Third one is expenditure method. Right? We will count all the expenditures done by the government, companies and households on the final goods and services in India. From that, we will subtract imported goods and we will add exported goods which are produced in India. That will give you all the goods and services, final goods and services which are produced in India, that is GDP. Please understand this. You should be basically, right, worried about this fact that whether you calculate GDP through expenditure method, income method, or right, let's say production method, the value of GDP should be one and same. I'll repeat it. In fact, I'll prove it tomorrow. There is a calculation here. Don't by heart the calculation. I'll show it. Whether you calculate GDP through production method, expenditure method, or income method, the values should be one and the same, which I'll prove it first thing tomorrow morning, not today. Right? So these are the important pointers regarding the GDP. Let's take up the calculation tomorrow. Now, before I wind up, let me take up your questions and address these questions. Price concept in the law of demand, where you explain that the price is less than demand is low, that doesn't exist. Can you please explain again? I don't understand the question itself. Please, whenever you ask a question, try to be contextual. Please ask me a contextual question whenever you ask. I'm not saying don't ask. And I'm asking you, whenever you put a question, please tell me the context of the question. Explain about price concept in law of demand, where you explain that the price is less, etc. I'm unable to understand the question. I'm really sorry for that. Okay. What is the efficient method to calculate GDP? Efficient method in case of India, it is a production method. Tomorrow we'll continue, don't worry. Production method is the most efficient method. Difference between assets and capital, please understand. Assets is a very generic term. It is a very, very generic term. It can be used in many contexts. But generally, just to make you understand it easier, I said capital, you can simply understand it as an asset which is created by the companies which they are going to use. Assets are nothing but which will give you money, simple, which will create value for you. Goods, companies will sell, create value, right? That is the reason I said capital, capital basically refers to the assets, either fixed or movable assets, which are created by companies over a period of time. Sir, does the government use all the three methods? Right? Yes, many of the governments use all the three methods, but in India, which method is used, etc., etc., I will discuss that tomorrow. Factor cost and factor income. Factor cost is the expenditure side. We have discussed in the first session. Factor cost is the expenditure side. And the factor income basically is the income side. For example, labor will provide the services to you, but the same labor will also earn incomes. Labor will earn incomes, and that basically the income that is earned is called as a factor income. Right? But the wages which are paid by the company, it is a factor cost. What about China's products? Imports to India will not be counted in GDP? Of course, no. If you import anything, will not count it. So does FDI come under this formula? FDI is an investment. It is not an expenditure. Right? Where will you put FDI? Again, please understand this. FDI, if they use it to purchase machinery, etc., etc., generally it is counted as a part of I. That is the investment done by the companies. Expenditure incurred by spent on export will be added, or export cost incurred on the production and export of exported good. My dear, I am unable to understand the question. Foreigners who stay in India, generally foreigners who stay beyond 1 year in India will be counted. Their contribution will be counted as part of India's GNP. We will understand it tomorrow, don't worry. But we are buying, right? Okay, I've already addressed this. What about the discount given on the products? Whether discount is given or not, market price, even after discount, whatever is the market price, that will be counted. Okay. Per capita is 1.97 lakh rupees. Correct. Per capita income of India, as per the latest data given by the finance minister, is 1.97 lakh rupees. Okay. Done. Okay. So we'll stop the discussion today here. We'll take up the discussion again tomorrow. We'll start from this slide. That is, I'll prove to you that whether you calculate GDP through expenditure method, income method, or right, let's say production method, value should be one and same. Right? We'll start from here itself. Okay. So we'll take it up tomorrow. Income method is not clear. I'll show it to you. What do you mean by factor income method here? How do you calculate? I'll show it to you using the example. Don't worry. Okay. So that's it from my side. We'll stop the discussion today here. We'll take it up tomorrow. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. See you again. Bye. Take care.